Yeah, I'm glad to do the introduction of our speaker today. Some time ago, I went to the Noon Club meeting, and it featured our speaker today telling about his startup company here, and it's a very impressive local success stories. Person who grew up here, went to high school here. His son went to high school, and his son Elliot, we're talking about Jonathan, of course, but his son Elliot is here also and is part of the company. And Elliot played music with my son in high school, so they're great buddies from the past. And it's interesting how many kids graduating from Arcade High and eventually come back here again after being away at a college somewhere. So Jonathan is co-founder, if I remember right, of a startup company here. He's going to tell you all about it. Sounds like a lot of you already know about his success story. And Elliot, I gather, is now CEO of the company. He's going to be speaking too. So let's give a really warm welcome to our local speakers here.
Good morning. One thing though, you missed one thing. Jonathan's most amazing award and achievement, 1983 Daughters of the American Revolution Good Citizen Award.
We were in this, got the same award.
Which I discovered 30 years later.
That's right. Thank you, Greg. Yes, good morning. I am Jonathan Claasen. This is not me. Jonsteen is our company. I don't recognize that name, but my last name is spelled Claasen. Yes, I recognize.
It was 5 o'clock in the morning.
No shame. Nobody ever gets it right. No one ever gets it right. But I recognize many of your faces. I have been around. I was born in Arcata, grew up here. I grew up with Romy. Matt and I used to bang around quite a bit on the basketball court. Yeah, I know Greg from business and also the DAR. So anyway. Yes, well, I think to start out, we're here to talk about our tree company, the Jonsteen Company, and I think that we were really fortunate to get on ABC World News Tonight a couple weeks ago. I think it was Cyber Monday, and I think that my good buddy now, David Muir, does a pretty good job of kind of giving an overview. There's some filler in there with some other little Christmas tree farms, but it's a little 2-minute segment, and so I think let's just look at that, and then I can kind of talk about kind of how we got here.
Years and still going and growing, literally. Tonight, our great Made in America Christmas is back, our 11th year now, supporting local businesses across this country. And in stores across America tonight, your kits being sold from one very special farm.
I've been selling these wonderful, incredible kits for 24 years. Oh, that's a long time.
We first showed you Jonsteen Tree Company's Christmas trees that you grow yourself years ago.
We have lots of tourists come through, and they always get excited to pick up their seed kits.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, David.
Since 1992 in McKinleyville, California, the team growing tiny trees, millions planted, and then you pick it up from there.
Okay, David, well, it's Cyber Monday, as you know, so here we are in action, chipping trees all around the country.
Their coast redwood tree on the left, giant sequoia on the right. You add soil in the pot, then fertilizer, then the tree. A little water, a lot of love. And tonight here, just look at how the trees have grown. The Geyer family in Washington sending us theirs. In Oregon, the Levitan family, the tree, taller than Dad now. In California, Hagen Foreman planting his right in his front lawn. And tonight, as always, we celebrate our local tree farmers.
Hey, David.
Cooper's Christmas Tree Farm in Brazelton, Georgia, too.
This is just some filler they put into our story.
Gotta get a baby in there.
In Pea Ridge, Arkansas,
Hi, David.
Martin Babb at the Wonderland Tree Farm.
We are so grateful for people who shop local.
Christmas. And in Oxford, Michigan, the Candy Cane Christmas Tree Farm on Candy Cane Lane, of course.
We are so thrilled to know that what we've worked so hard on during the years is going to grace somebody's home for Christmas.
While back in McKinleyville, California, Happy Holidays, David! The Jonsteen Company with their holiday message, 3 words in mind. Made in America! We love it. We love those trees now taller than Dad. Send us your one thing made in America this Christmas. Just getting started.
Yeah, so that's kind of the overview of what we do. Now, how we got here was it's a business story and a life story. As I said, I was born in Arcata and grew up here. Went through high school here. I went down to Pepperdine University and got a very lucrative degree in creative writing. I came back to Humboldt, married my high school sweetheart, then Heidi Schaub. My in-law, my late father-in-law, Victor Schaub, was a great Rotarian, and my mother-in-law, Sandra, is still active at the Union Club. And we traveled around the country after we got married, and figured, you know what? Arcata's the coolest place in America, and decided to come back here. And I hung my shingle up as a wordsmith and opened a little PR and advertising office in Eureka, writing press releases and making advertisements and consulting with some businesses, working for some local ad agencies. Basically just hustling, doing whatever I could. But eventually I found some great clients. I worked for the Carters and was a publicist for the Hotel Carter and Carter House Inns back when they were famous, and as well as Holly here in town. Well, as I was doing this, I had an office in Eureka, and I had a buddy that I met through my wife's friend, who they were dating, and we hit it off and struck up a great friendship. That was Steen Christensen. He is the Steen in Jonsteen. And his parents had been involved in national park concessions. They had managed the concessions over at Mesa Verde, and they got transferred to Muir Woods National Monument down in the Marin Headlands about the time Steen was getting out of the Navy and coming to Humboldt State to go to school. And when the parents came in to manage Muir Woods, they worked for a big company called Aramark. And prior to Aramark taking over the concession, it was run more like a mom and pop somehow. I forget, I don't know if this was about the time it became a national monument, but there was a guy there who from the 1950s had always grown little redwood tree saplings and offered them there, and it was kind of iconic and part of the experience at Muir Woods. But when Aramark came in, they're like, we aren't a tree nursery, we aren't going to do this. But Steen's clever parents were like, Steen's up in redwood land. And back then, this was the 80s, and you know, LP had a nursery in Little River, Corbell was running, GP had one in Fort Bragg. Everybody was growing tons of redwood trees, and they like put it all together. They're like, we're gonna get Steen up here, going to college, and then we'll kind of devise this little tube to put it in and make these little labels, and once a week he can go up to the nursery, grab a flat of redwoods, stuff them in the tubes, and put them on the Greyhound bus down to Mill Valley. And so, of course, I, as a friend, we'd just go over, we'd listen to loud music and drink beer and stuff trees, and we, it just got me out of the office and, got me a beer. So we continued to do that. His parents ended up retiring, and Steen came to me and said, this is going to go away, this little tree thing, and what do you think? Do you want to do it? Is there something here? And as a wordsmith, I was struggling with the fact that as soon as I stepped away from my desk, I stopped making money. And I hated that. And I'm like, if I could get something that we could sell, that could take on a life of its own, that could work when I'm not at my desk necessarily. So I'm like, yeah, having something to sell, that sounds great. And I had been spending all my time writing flowery prose about fancy hotel rooms and glistening jewelry and beautiful wine and food, and I started to apply those same copywriting techniques to trees, and I found, my gosh, trees are so much better to write about. There's so much more there. There's so much more. And so we kind of began rethinking this tree thing and saying, we can really build this. This is really something else. And it got me engaged in seeing trees and learning about trees, and then getting enthusiastic and trying to transmit that enthusiasm to people through packaging, clever packaging, art, and clever writing. And there's the old days. This is in my garage in Arcata, still listening to music. I'm a musician, so there's always band gear around. And yep, that's the early days. That's for sure. That's probably about 1990. We had one account, Muir Woods, and we kind of ran it that way. And then we slowly changed the packaging, made it more interpretive. Steen got in the car, started visiting other parks, other places that we could sell, and started building a little list of places that were offering our trees. And the other thing we did was we started, trees die. And so we knew we were selling these to a lot of travelers. And so we're like, I'm gonna hook up with these people that are growing our trees. And so I started putting our 800 number over everything, our address, and what do you know? The phone started ringing, and people are telling me tree stories and telling us where they're growing their trees, and people are interested and they want more. And I'm like, this is awesome. So we have wholesale, and we're going to have retail too. And
I have a question.
yes.
What is a tree story?
A tree story? Oh man. Okay. Well, Michelle want to pull up one of our tree stories. It's basically just a little nature writing. You could call something like, the redwood forest, the pillars of antiquity, or stuff like that. And you just lead people and try to get people fascinated. And when you write about trees, there's cultural aspect of trees. The indigenous peoples, how they use the trees for materials and medicines, as well as the fruits and nuts. And then there's where they grow geographically. So you have the story of a region and the story of how the trees impacted the region. Look at what redwood trees have done in Humboldt County, right? And Doug fir. We try to, this is just some of our website, sequoiatrees.com. And, showing people trees, telling them a tree story, how big it gets, where you can grow it, what makes it special, what color the cones are, how big they are, how long it will live, all those things.
How tall do they get?
How tall do redwoods get?
Yeah, what your little ones, I mean, they're
Oh,
eventually.
we grow in 3 sizes.
They don't know
Yeah, we grow in those styro blocks, and those, we sell them at like 2 inches tall, up to around 1 foot tall as a plug seedling. And then we have styro 16s, which is kind of a deeper cell, kind of like a Coke can sized tree root plug, and those can get to 1 foot to 2 feet tall, and we ship those. And then we grow in 3-gallon tubs. Those we call our extra larges, and like yay there. And those can, we can ship what UPS will pick up. So we've done a fair bit of strapping boxes together and getting some larger material, but generally, it's a 4 foot long, 20-pound parcel, and we can ship it all over the world.
I think she was asking how,
Well, I mean, if you
how
planted
tall will
in
they,
the
if you
garden.
let it go, how tall will it?
Redwood, the tallest redwood is like 380 something feet tall right now, Hyperion, yeah.
So don't plant it in.
Yeah, well, we hear all kinds of stuff. Yeah, that's the other part of the tree story, Vanessa, is the people that call in and tell us. We get pictures from all around the world of redwood trees in the strangest places.
Can they grow other climates?
Oh my gosh, yes. All over the South. The picture, I don't know if it was in the Mirror story, there's one guy, he has a 30-foot, 35-foot redwood tree in Atlanta, Georgia, in Washington, D.C. area, in Maryland. And then giant sequoias, which are a bit more cold hardy. We have those probably in every single state. And if you go up and down the coast here in the Pacific Northwest, like through Portland, Seattle, if you look at the skyline or the treescape, like you can see the treetops over here in most cities. If you look out and you ever see a perfectly pyramidal shape, almost too perfect, almost like this, it's a giant sequoia. They, the younger ones that are around 100, they're very, very symmetrical and almost just like a cone. Yeah.
I think Craig had a question.
Oh, I'm just going to make a comment, talking about how big they get. When I was with Louisiana Pacific in 1973, I supervised the first tree planting crews for reforestation of our containerized, seedlings that we grew there. Green Diamond, a few years ago, commercially harvested some of those trees. So they're commercially harvested trees that I planted. Wow. So, of course, we have an amazing growth,
How tall are they?
It's like 100.
Size doesn't matter.
Yeah, Green Diamond has, and we're a different kind of nursery now. I like to call us a living library, kind of an arboretum that you can shop from for seedlings. And I think that's one of the ways that our company they talk about entrepreneurial disruption. I think that's kind of one of the ways we disrupted the nursery scene, because little trees like this don't really make it to market, don't make it to consumers. You can go down to Ace, you can go to Home Depot or Costco, and it's amazing. Like when those redwood trees come through Costco, these 14-footers for whatever, 75 bucks. I can't ship a tree that size from Dow's Prairie to Eureka for 75 bucks. So economy of scale and all that stuff. But generally speaking, small, cheap trees were not very readily accessible to people. And so we just started hustling, and we were like, you can retail these, we will make a custom label for these for your company. Instead of that magnet or that darn pen, put a tree in somebody's hands. We developed educational materials for teachers and school districts, classroom kits. We just hustle, and because you have to, right? and, you know, basically didn't make any money for decades, and that's how we met Greg. And,
I taught him how to do that.
yes, yeah, we're an equal opportunity borrower, AEDC, REDEC, you know, we love you guys, thank you. Yeah.
Does anybody ever call up and say, I'm interested in having my own forest, and then buy a whole bunch of trees?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We just, you know, as we are emerging, all the nurseries are shutting down. You know, LP, no more. Green Diamond, they only grow clones now. They're trying to grow an untapered, basically gigantic 2x4 with no branches. Yeah, so that's what they're breeding for. And you know, there's some. That's right. That's right. And they want it to tip over it in exactly 85 years and load itself on a truck.
So many flicks.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know where was I, but. Yeah, everybody's shutting down. So we have, Bob, experienced more and more people coming to us, small landowners. The problem that what's not a problem, because we always are all things to all people. We're all tree to all people. So, but it is difficult economically because a lot of the people that have forests, small managed forests or ranches with timber and timber harvest plans, they're used to buying from Humboldt Redwood or these other logging companies. And for those logging companies, the nurseries are always kind of on the expense side of things. They're just a cost, so they aren't the money maker. The money maker is in timber harvest. And so the trees are really cheap. You know, they're under $1 each for a seedling. We retail a beautiful seedling for about $9. So we have to balance that out a little bit. But, you know, the other day we just sold to a family up in southern Oregon that is trying to kind of migrate redwoods north as the climate changes. And they aren't alone. Many people up in the Pacific Northwest, and especially southern Oregon, are moving redwoods up there to see how they're doing, and they're going to do great. But so we just sold 5,000 seedlings to this 86-year-old guy, and he's the kind of patriarch of this family. You know, we have a lot of them. So
We have a last question from Thomas.
Well, yeah, say some more about, as these big companies, logging companies get out of the seedling business, are you replacing them then with your seedlings? Have you been able to do that?
Again, it's this tension between the market that we've kind of created for these small trees and the former market for the dirt cheap trees. So the crop trees. If we can sell in big numbers, 5,000 or 10,000 at a time, and we do have a capacity to grow almost 1 million trees now a year. You know, we do some of that. We do some of that. The regen work, working with some of the environmental services people, where we work with Save the Redwoods League. We're growing some trees that will eventually make their way into Redwood National Park. But they get very picky about seed sources and things like that. And so we're just kind of more of every woman's tree company. And we, you know, there's so, I don't know, how many of you have planted a tree in the last year? A few, good for you. Yeah, but a lot of people actually never have. And people don't really see trees. and kids too. You know, there's nature deficit disorder and people really getting more connected to their phones than our planet Earth around us. So that's kind of what we're fighting against, and saying trees are so cool. And they're a great hobby. And you should plant them and have fun with them and learn about them and look at them and appreciate them. And that's kind of been our mission, to share the joy, knowledge, and actually the experience of trees and nature with people. That's what we do. And thank you very much for having us.